Hello friends, my name is SANJAYLAKHANPAL and welcome back to my YouTube channel Learn Snowflake. In today's video, we are going to learn how to load data from an Amazon S3 bucket into a Snowflake table using a external stage. So I have a weather data in a CSV format. So here is my file which contains data regarding the weather for a US. In order to load this CSV file into a Snowflake table, we will first upload this file into a S3 bucket. So here is my S3 bucket with the name my S3 landing zone September 2022. So let's first load a S3 file into a S3 bucket. So one thing to note here that this S3 bucket is not a public S3 bucket and we have a restricted access to this S3 bucket. In order to load this CSV file, so let's first create a table with the name weather in my database SANJAYLAKHANPAL and schema landing underscore zone. So now we have a table in our schema under our database SANJAYLAKHANPAL with the name weather. To load a data from this CSV file that we have on a S3 bucket now, we have to create a file format and we have to define how the format of a file is. So as you can see here in this statement, we have created a file format with the name mys3.csv and type is CSV. Compression we have defined as a auto and field delimiter is comma. As well as record delimiter is a new line. My first row contains a header, so I simply said skip header equal to 1. Okay, and fields occasionally enclosed by double quotes. So if you see in my CSV file, I have a records where we have a comma in between. So these such kind of records are defined via enclosed via double quotes. Okay, and rest we have some common properties. So let's create a file format with the name mys3 CSV. Now we have a file format, we have a table, and now we have a data also in a S3 bucket. In order to load this data, we have to create a stage that will point to my S3 bucket. So let's see how this works. So I'll create a external stage, okay, with a URL to my S3 bucket. So now let's do a list at the rate external stage name that I have given while creating a external stage. So we got an error. Why we got an error? Because my S3 bucket is not a public S3 and it's restricted to access only using only for authorized users. In order to give access to this S3 bucket, we have to provide the credentials. We have to give a AWS key ID and a AWS secret key. Okay, so let's see. Now we give our credentials here. And are we able to see the CSV file in S3 bucket? Yes. But in a real-time projects, it's not preferred to give the AWS key ID and secret key in an open text format. It will give access. Anyone can see this key ID and a secret key and they can easily get access to a S3 bucket. So these access keys needs to be restricted so that not everyone who are not authorized they can see these access keys and secret keys. So for that, what we have to use? We have to use a storage integration. So what exactly the storage integration is? A storage integration is a Snowflake object that stores and generate identity and access management entity for external cloud storage along with an optional set of allowed and block storage locations. Which means when we create a storage integration, okay, we can restrict the access to a particular S3 bucket or to a particular location in a Amazon S3. So let's see. So let's get back to our demo. Okay, so we have listed a, we have created a external stage, and now we have done a list external stage. Now let's load a data into a table using the external state that we have created. So you can see that 16743 rows has been loaded into my table. Let's see a table. We have a data in our Snowflake table. But this is not a preferred way of loading a data, because here we have exposed the Amazon AWS keys and AWS secret keys while creating an external stage. So let's do this by using storage integration. Okay, now we have simply just truncated the data, and we have seen that we don't have any record now in a table. So if we do a select star from this table, so we don't have anything. Okay, so in order to create a S3 bucket, okay, we have to go to our AWS account. Okay, and some anyone who is having access to a Amazon AWS account, they can create a roles and policies over there, so that particular role can have access to a particular S3 bucket. So let's create a policy here, and this policy will say that it has only access to a S3 bucket, and that to a particular S3 bucket. In order to create a policy, okay, let's choose a service from here, S3. Okay, and we have to give the permissions, like what all access we want this to have. Okay, so let's give a list bucket version, and give a get object version, get object. Okay, in a resource section we are going to define like for which S3 bucket we want to give this. We can define here any also, so it will have access to any S3 bucket which we have in our account. But in my case, so I want to give access only to this S3 bucket. So I'll give a S3 bucket name here. I'll say add, and get object also I'll give a S3 bucket name, and I'll select here any, so that any file that we have in our S3 bucket, this policy will allow access to that object. The other way of doing this is via JSON file. Here we can create a write a JSON file. Okay, so we have a already policy that we have. So I'll simply copy this, and here you can see I have given access get object, list bucket version, list bucket, get object location, and get object version, and I have given access to only to this S3 bucket, which is my S3 landing zone SCPT 2022. Okay, so I'll click on a next tags. Nothing to do here, it's optional. So let's go and review and give a name, my S3 policy. We can give us some description here, my S3 policy for integration with Snowflake. So let's create this policy. So we have created a policy with the name my S3 policy. Now let's go into a role, and we have to create a role here and give a policy access to this role. So click on a create role. Here what we have to do, we have to select like what kind of a trusted entity we want this role to take in order to interact with the S3 bucket. Since my Snowflake account is on a different AWS account, so I'll select AWS account here. Okay, right now keep this as a default because we need to give another AWS account ID here, which we don't have right now. So once we create a storage integration, we will get this another AWS account ID. Keep it as is right now. Okay, click on a next, and from this policy page just select so from here I'll copy the name. So here I got a my S3 policy, and I'll simply click on a next and give a role name. Let's give a my S3 role. Okay, give us some description here. Snowflake and S3 bucket. Okay, and simply click on a create role. You can see here that we have a S3 bucket, S3 policy and S3 role created. The name that we have given to a role is a my S3 role. Okay, so now to create a storage integration, copy this ARN from my S3 role, and let's move to Snowflake page where we are going to create a Snowflake S3 integration. In order to create a Snowflake integration, storage integration, we have to execute this command, create and replace storage integration. We have to give the name of the storage integration. Type is a external state. Storage provider is a S3. Enabled equal to a true. And storage AWS role ARN. So this is a ARN that I have copied from my role ARN. Okay. So let's and storage allowed location, the S3 location that is allowed there. Okay. So let's go and execute this command. It will create a Snowflake underscore S3 integration. Now let's do a describe integration and give the name of the storage integration that we have created. So it will give you information which we required for our role that we have created. So here we have to copy these two things. One is a Snowflake AWS IAM user ARN, and second storage AWS external ID. So if you remember that we have the account that we have set there as a the default. Okay, so this is something that we need to paste over there. Okay, so let's go and edit this role. Or what we can do, we can just go here and trusted relationship, edit trust policy. Okay, and here we can give a AWS ARN that we got from our Snowflake account. Okay, and we have to give a condition here also. So let me this is the external ID that we need to give here. So let's copy this thing, okay, and then we'll edit the same in a policy. So I'll copy the AWS IAM user ARN and paste the same here. External ID I'll copy here and paste here. I'll update the policy here, and now this policy has been updated, or this role has been updated. Okay, so now okay, so now we have created a storage integration. Okay, and this storage integration can interact with the Amazon AWS S3 without giving any secret keys in a plain text format. Okay, so let's re-execute this statement. Okay, and now the external state that we have created earlier, we have given a AWS keys and secret keys in an open text format. Okay, now we'll create a external stage where we are not going to give any kind of a AWS secret keys or anything. Okay, we are going to give a storage integration name that we have just created above. Okay, so I'll use a database. Okay, and I'll create a external stage here. So one thing to note here, this storage integration can be done only via account administrator. Okay, we have to use our role account admin in order to create this storage integration. Now let's create a external stage by giving a storage integration and the name of the storage integration that we have just created above. Okay, now let's do a list at the rate external landing stage name that we have just created. See, we can see here that we have an issue with a permission. Okay, so it's still saying that verify the role and external IDs are configured correctly in your AWS policy. So let's go back and see where we have an issue here. Let's go to a AWS role, edit trust policies, and AWS ARN. Okay, and this is the external ID that we have to give here. Let's update a policy. Now we have defined everything here. Okay, let's go back and see. Create a external stage again. See, now we are able to see, list external stage using list external landing S3, and while creating an external stage we have not given any kind of a secret keys or anything to a AWS S3, and any user now can use this Snowflake S3 integration for creating an external stage which can access data from this my S3 landing bucket. Okay, so now the benefit of storage integration is that one need not to define the AWS secret keys in an open text format, and every user is not having access to these keys. Now simply let's do a copy into a table using this external stage. I have used a force here because it's the same set of a file that I'm loading again. So this will enable a Snowflake to reload a file when if it's already loaded. Let's do a select star from a table that we have created. So now you can see that 16743 rows has been loaded into a table, and we have not given any kind of a secret key or any user ID, password or anything while creating a external stage. So thank you friends for watching this video, and please do let me know your feedback or any comments if you feel that we need in order to improve these videos. Thank you friends.